Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Two-Man Advantage podcast. We are live for the first time here on Google Hangouts. Me and Kevin McShan are here talking a little bit about the Detroit Lions preseason games. They have two already. And Kevin, what have you made of the first two first preseason games?
My initial impression of the preseason is this. I think Stafford is sharp, which is good to see. I think they'll absorb the loss of Sue by the depth that they've created along the defensive line. But the run defense still remains a problem, and building depth, of course, with this team is always a concern. But all things considered, first team looked well, and we'll see what happens this Friday when they play Jacksonville, when they play the mock regular season game, getting ready for the regular season.
That's right. The third preseason game is always the test run before the actual regular season begins. The first two games you saw, what were your highlights that you saw, or what players really stood out to you the most?
Well, I'll go on everybody's gravy train of Ameer Abdullah, of course.
Yep.
He's played well the first couple of games. Certainly what he showed against the Jets, that 45-yard run was certainly a nice starting point. Zach Zenner has been this year's preseason darling, so hopefully he'll make the team. Defensively, Carlo certainly has come in and made a splash. I think that the linebackers are a strength of the team, and Darius Slay looks like he's ready to take the next step as well.
That's true, especially when you're talking about Ameer Abdullah and Zach Zenner. You know, it's going to be a very tight a tight race for running backs to make the team there, because it's pretty stacked. You have Joyke Bell, Ameer Abdullah, Zach Zenner, and George Wynn, which right now looks like Zenner is in front of George Wynn to lock down the third running back spot. But yeah, you said it yourself. There's a lot of bright spots on the team, but I think the big concern is that offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
First game they looked great. Second game not so much. Stafford didn't look as great in Washington. It was. I know he only played, I think, one series, but I think that it showed a lot. This offensive line is going to need a lot of time to gel and get better.
Losing Larry Warford to injury was a problem. Yeah. Hopefully he'll be back. Getting Waddle back is certainly a step in the right direction for them. Lincoln Tomlinson's played well. Yeah. We'll see how the transitions from Raiola to Swanton goes. And speaking of the offensive line, Rob Sims recently announced his retirement after 9 years in the league and 5 with the Lions. I think Rob was a major part of building chemistry and leadership with this team. An older veteran who had knee problems, but certainly we wish him all the best with his business endeavors as well.
Yes, so he definitely was a solid starter for the Lions for many years. So we wish him nothing but the best in his retirement life. Moving on to, well, we'll still stay in football, but we'll talk about the preseason of another team. Big, huge blow to the Green Bay Packers happened in their last preseason game. Wideout Jordy Nelson went down and believe tore his ACL, and he's most likely done for the year. If you're a Green Bay Packer fan, should you be freaking out, or because you lost your best wide receiver, Aaron Rodgers' favorite target? Which are you a little bit concerned, or are you just like, no, someone else is going to step up and they're going to fill his role?
Well, I mean, Jordy Nelson, it was one of their big play threads there in Green Bay as a Lions supporter. You never like to see injuries, but it certainly makes it a tad bit easier for the Lions to compete in this division. But as far as the Packers go, they do such a good job of scouting and accumulating players that I don't think they'll miss a beat. Certainly, they didn't lose Aaron Rodgers, so I still think that the class of the division, they drafted a kid named Devontae Adams, who will go into that slot. But certainly, the production and the on-the-field leadership and off-the-field leadership, the Packers will miss in Jordy Nelson. But I still think they'll win the division as a whole.
Yes, that's you think your Lions fans like, all right, maybe the wheels, the pieces are falling in place, but no, Green Bay is always a tough team to beat, especially at home. So hopefully the Lions can break that streak this year and actually win a game in Green Bay.
Yeah, and just following up on the earlier point about the Lions and their young offensive line play, you had brought up earlier all of the changes that the Lions had made along the offensive line. And I liken it to what the Dallas Cowboys did, devoting resources to that side of the ball. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on how you think the youth movement along the offensive line will work for the Lions, particularly at right tackle, where there is still some concern as well.
I'm going to say there are going to be some growing pains, especially with that offensive line, especially you're going to have a first-year player along with second and third year players along that line. So it's going to be a very young, inexperienced line. They are going to go through, like I said, a lot of growing pains. And so there's going to be times that, you're going to get really mad at Stafford when you should really get mad at the line for, not protecting him enough. So they know that their number one job is to keep Stafford upright and healthy. So
all season
long. So if they do that, I think that offensive line would be a success.
And defensively, what were your takeaways from the first two preseason games?
Defensively, they looked good. I really put it as a land of misfit toys with the Lions defenses. You lose Sue, you lose Fairley, you bring in some, draft some young guys like Karan Reed and Gabe Wright. These. I wouldn't say that they're green, but, I guess when you are a rookie in the NFL, you are green, playing at a man's professional level. So I really think, this is going to be really show me if Terrell Austin's coaching.
He'll earn his money.
Yeah, if he's really worth a head coaching job in the NFL. If he can, take this land of misfit toys and actually, be a top 10 defense, top 15 defense, then that's pretty impressive. So I'm interested to see, how much pressure that they can get on opposing quarterbacks.
And in fairness to the Lions, Nada hasn't played yet, and Jason Jones has been out for them for most of the preseason. So it's an unfinished puzzle, but it's certainly interesting to see it come together on the field, the preseason variety anyway.
Exactly. I think we're all just waiting to see, once you get to that third and fourth preseason game, we're like, all right, let's get to the real deal here. So preseason's halfway done. Hopefully it's for the Lions, we can get through these last two preseason games without any major injuries, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And continue to see what actually see what happens in San Diego, which will be their real first test.
Yeah, it will be an interesting test to have to travel across the country, and San Diego was a borderline playoff team. So it'll be a good test for the Lions. But